Hey guys, welcome to the Change Up Podcast. Josh and Chad here. This is where we talk about culturally relevant topics, but we look at them through an honest gospel worldview.
Let's get it.
Hey guys, everybody. We got Chad here, and we also got Dickie Lyons.
Hey, what's up, Josh?
Hey. Nice.
What's up, Chad?
What's up, dude?
He's so comfortable.
Did you expect me not to be here? You said it like...
Well, you were late. You were a few minutes late, but you had something important going on, so...
And do I ever... I'm ready to roll as soon as I get here.
No, like, we had that talk about being late a couple months ago, and ever since then, you've been really punctual.
Yeah.
Props, man. Thank you.
And I wasn't actually late today.
He respects me.
I just had to... They had questions at the Nehemiah project I had to answer.
Oh, he was in the parking lot.
Yeah, he was in the parking lot.
I was here before. I was actually here at 8:41. I told you to be here at 8:45, but then Laura had like five questions.
Well, that's all right.
So
it's all right, Laura.
Blame somebody else.
Listen, I got a counseling center to run. Okay.
Yep. Punctuality.
Okay, why do we have Dickie here today? Well,
where did you learn what punctuality means? Punctual.
Dictionary.
Aladdin.
What?
Yeah.
No, they don't say that.
It was in Aladdin.
The genie.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Punctual.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Robin
That actually may have been the first time I heard it too.
And like you're a young kid and you're listening to it, you're like, what is punctual? And then like your older sister or your dad explains it to you.
I found out like years later. First time I heard the words punctual was Aladdin. I learned the meaning when I was in high school.
There's a lot like that. You're a kid. You're like taking all this in, but like you have no clue what it means. And then you're older. You're like, oh, that makes sense.
That's what Aladdin was talking about.
All right, so Dickie is here
time.
because he is part of the Field Church's finance. What is it called?
Finance ministry team.
Yeah, FMT.
Yep. FMT.
The TFC FMT.
That's right. That's very good.
And he's also, what are you?
At Northwest Mutual.
Varsity Wealth.
Varsity Wealth. Yep.
I am a financial advisor, financial planner.
That's right.
He's our resident expert for money and finances.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring him on to help us set some good, solid New Year financial goals.
Great.
Yeah.
But first,
Hope I don't disappoint.
we're going to play some Take It or Leave It.
I love Take It or Leave It. Do I get to play or do I get to watch you guys play?
Of course you get to play.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to lie, I'm probably your biggest fan in regards to the change-up. I listen to it all the time.
You've been with us from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it was your idea.
I think it was.
Probably, somehow.
I remember like it was yesterday. FOMO is when you guys were the original like Instagram teaser of it. We were at Taylor's birthday party, I think.
Yeah.
And I go outside and you guys are on the porch swing like doing those videos. And I'm like, boy, I wish I was a part of that. But it's not a big deal. I'll just call them after every show and tell them what I think the Take It or Leave It's were, like my answers. Yeah. I'm always calling Josh. I go, let me tell you something about the Take It or Leave It. Or even you're triggered. But anyways, huge fan here.
Awesome.
Just excited to be here.
Josh hasn't been triggered in a while.
No triggers today?
No triggers. I'm actually rolling one of my triggers into the Take It or Leave It because I want to hear your guys' opinion on it.
Great.
Yeah. So just, I don't know. You've never played Take It or Leave It. Realize
I have in my mind.
you got to be ready off the cuff.
Well, the first
I'm gonna take
one
'em all.
I'll send to Chad. So Chad gets to decide the first one, and then Dickie will decide the second one. All right, so
Dickie's already pre-decided. He's saying yes.
Take It or Leave It. Tip shaming.
Tip shaming. I think I know what this would be about, so I'll take it.
Okay, do you tip at coffee shops,
No.
Dickie?
Yes.
Okay, so there's this like phenomenon going on. Like we all tip at restaurants. It's like a normal thing.
Of course.
Well, lately, in the past few years, with the they got the iPads they flip around.
Yeah.
Now it has the tip, but because of COVID now, they don't give you the iPad. They just ask, "Is there anything else you'd like to do?" Or they all have like they word it a little differently. I don't feel like
I say yes. I'd like to drink
a
my
coffee. I don't feel
So
like
wait. No, they still turn it around for me.
sometimes, yeah, but
Yeah.
a lot of times, like PJs, they're like, "Would you like to leave anything?"
Right.
Or they'll show me the screen, like, "Would you like to do anything here?"
So I want to know. So Chad,
Oh, really?
you don't tip.
Yes.
So when they give you the options, you hit no.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
they got the 5, 10, 15, 25.
Uh-huh.
I've got to hit the highest number.
Yeah. Well,
every time.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
mean, it's
that
like-
much if you're just buying a coffee.
I will.
but
I
the
will not say
principle of
that I don't.
Because they're looking
Sometimes,
at me.
sometimes I do if I feel like
See?
the service was like top notch, I'll throw a tip on there. But most of the time, it's like I order a black coffee. They turn around, fill it up, put a lid on it, hand it to me.
So it's merit based for you.
It's like, I mean, and if you work at a coffee shop, you make a hourly wage.
Exactly.
I always tip
Servers
at
in a restaurant
because they don't make normal hourly wages.
Yeah, they make like
live off
$2 an hour.
Right, they live off their tips. I always tip well at a restaurant. At a coffee shop, you're already making a decent hourly wage, and you're just doing what I probably could have done myself.
Yeah.
Because you're not making any fancy drink for me. You're filling up what you've already brewed.
Right.
Then I don't think
it's like at a gas station where they have the coffee for you. You're like pouring it.
I really don't
You
think
made it yourself and then they asked for a tip? Now, this is what bothers me, because this might go into a triggered, and it's about tipping. So went to Florida, for over the summer, and they've got the beach chair guys.
Yeah.
I used to be a beach chair guy. Like, I used to go down to Florida. My papa had a condo, but like I would go down and help the beach chair guy. Would let me use the kayaks. But now it's like, that's how you got your tips. Like how hard you could get out there, give somebody a good seat.
Yeah.
And now you have to go to the tent, to the tent guy, and you have to order them, and you have to pay for them there.
Yeah.
So you haven't even got your chairs yet. You don't know where you're sitting. You don't know where he's going to put you, if you're going to get an umbrella, if you're going to get close to the beach, if you're going to get far. And he goes and, hey, you want to add a tip? And I go, we haven't done anything yet.
Right.
I don't know.
Future tips.
Are you going to run? Are you going to run over there,
hard,
get me a good spot? Are you going to set it up? Are you going to carry my ice chest for me?
Like suntan lotion on my shoulders?
Something. But I was like, dude, I don't know. I don't know what to tip you yet. That's what I told him. I said, you got to figure this thing out. Let's figure this thing out.
Right.
Leave it open. He's like, you can't do that. I said, well, then I must
no
refuse
tip.
the tip.
Then no tip.
Yeah,
Maybe
I must refuse a tip.
Yeah.
That's a good line. I could have used it.
Well, because tips are supposed to be merit based. You do a really good job. The tip is, man, thank you for doing a good job.
Yeah.
For future merit.
It's not a guarantee. Because I've left some. If you serve me at a restaurant and you're terrible, and I've got to track you down a couple times, guess what? You're not getting a good tip.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a mail-in, deal. However, if you do a good job, I'll leave you a great tip. Like I want to tip you well.
21%. I
want to tip you well. No, I've done higher than that sometimes.
Ooh.
I want to tip you well. But if you don't do a good job, like there's something in me that's like, well, you didn't do what you're supposed to do.
I do think it's kind of representative of our culture, though. Like, we're moving away from merit-based everything.
Oh, yeah,
like,
it's entitlement
People
culture.
don't like that.
It's entitlement culture.
Give me the tip before I do it.
Yeah, I deserve a tip, no matter
Right.
what.
You deserve nothing.
Because you're rich. You have tons of money.
Now, being from New Orleans, there's a lot, from La Place, but living in New Orleans, a lot of people are from the restaurant industry and the hotel industry, and they get very triggered when you talk about not tipping a bartender or not tipping a waitress, because they go, you have no idea what's going on in the back. I said, well, that's your job to explain it. I said, if they're if you're short staffed,
Right.
like a good waiter will come up and say, hey, sorry about the wait, but we're short staffed. Please be patient. And then I'll tip because he communicated that it was going to be long.
Yeah.
But if you're saying,
Right.
hey,
That's considered doing a good job.
that's a good job.
Right.
You don't have to be timely, but you just have to let me know.
Yeah,
we're communicator.
I agree with you.
That's good.
I don't.
I like that.
I don't penalize. I appreciate that because I don't penalize a waitress or a waiter for something they can't control. If the kitchen's slow or backed up, I don't penalize them for that. It's not their fault. But like you said, if they come to me a couple times and say, "I'm sorry," hey, no worries.
Yep.
I'm gonna still, because you're coming to me and talking to me and communicating.
Yeah.
If you disappear for 20 minutes,
Yep.
and I can't even get a refill on a drink, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Now here's the other question.
You know?
On the other side, what about if you're an overly annoying waiter because you're there too much? You ever get that where you're in the middle of conversation, they cut you off and they ask you if you want more water even though you're still halfway full?
I don't penalize that, but it does annoy me. But in my mind, it's like I got to be fair. I'd penalize you if you're not around. So at least I know where you're at.
Yeah, at least you're here.
At least you're here and I can get something if I need it.
Yeah. It's an interesting system, though. Because, the more dishonest we are as the customer, the more we're building up, their bad habits, basically.
Listen, I got a good...
They get tips no matter what because it's not merit-based anymore.
I got a good story, and this would be a good lesson if you're a server out there. All right? This is a lesson for if you're a restaurant owner. So we were at Buffalo Wild Wings.
B-dubs.
B-dubs. With
the pinnacle
some of the...
Every college student.
Yeah, some of the guys from the church, we're there just doing a hangout from our community group and stuff like that. And, well, you're not in my community group. So, anyway.
Continue.
So, we're sitting there, and it's there was a bunch of drafts going on, like fantasy drafts and stuff like that. And they were more crowded than they thought they would be. So the kitchen was backed up. And I think there was like a playoff game on or something, NBA playoff game, which is fine. The waitress comes, she goes, I'm really sorry. The kitchen's backed up. But what we'd like to do is give you an appetizer on the house while you're waiting. And she gave us like the nachos or what, like the queso or whatever, and brought it out.
That goes a long way.
Listen, that probably cost the restaurant $1.50, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
That.
But what that did was everybody at that table respected that and would come back to beat us because of that simple gesture. And everybody tipped her well because she came over, she communicated, she gave us a little something to tide us over. Everything was cool. Wings
and
came
she
out.
could have paid for that
Everything's
herself, and it would have like made dividends for her tip.
right, because all of us at the table, man, she's doing such a great job. Everybody gave her a good tip because she took care of us. And restaurants that think short-sighted, like, we can't give away free food, so short-sighted because that $1.50 you spent on us brought us back. And I've told a couple people that story of like, man, they did a really good job. And I would recommend other people to go there.
Well, they need to think of it as like, okay, if they come back every year for this, 10 guys every year, that's going to make us thousands of dollars over the next decade. Like, it's worth $1.50 free nachos.
Waitress, yeah. I mean, that's residual income for the waitress.
Right.
You know, she's got to think about long-term planning.
Right. And she was smart because...
See what I did there?
Well, yeah, there you go.
Primer.
But she was smart because she thought, okay, I could have a table full of guys disgruntled because their wings are taking forever.
And nobody's going to tip.
Right. Or I can do this one little gesture. Change the whole mood of the whole table. Everybody was cool. Everybody's having a great time. We were there to talk and hang out anyway. Done.
Well, that's the law of reciprocity. Like, you give, you get. Yeah. All right, next topic.
My turn.
Dickie.
All right. Now, you get to chime in on mine?
I'm going to let you go first, and then I'll add to it if I want to.
And I apologize for chiming in here.
No, you're allowed to.
The tide.
The tide. Tides are changing, aren't they?
Tides are changing.
The tides are changing.
Political tides everywhere.
I'm taking it.
Are you tired of Alabama winning?
I knew it was
Alabama winning. Huh?
Yeah.
You know, I saw
who's Alabama and who won?
No, I saw a really good text, and let me just make sure it's appropriate. Let me find it.
We have the power of edits on this.
But Alabama won. Huh?
Yeah. Of course.
52 to like 24 or something.
Rooting for Alabama because they're in the SEC is like rooting for the devil because he's in the Bible. Unknown. That was like some unknown guy that sent that.
That's ouch towards Alabama.
That's how some people they get so upset with Alabama winning, but you got to appreciate it.
They are a powerhouse.
I mean, how can you hate on the fact that, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Nick Saban seems like a decent guy. He's created a great program.
I don't think he's a decent guy.
I mean, it seems like. I mean, I don't know of any like scandals or anything like that about him.
Okay.
Like, I mean, he might not.
Yes, because he's obsessed with winning. He doesn't have time for scandals.
I'm just saying he might be a hard, nosed guy.
Yeah.
Whatever. But as far as character based stuff, I mean, never heard.
He's not terrible.
Never heard any scandals like him cheating on his. He's not like a Rick Pitino or something like that. You know what I mean?
I do know this. One of my old coaches at Kentucky got offered a job at Alabama, and I said, "You gonna take it? That's a great opportunity." He goes, "No way." He goes, "That guy will work you to death." He's like, "I'm trying to enjoy my life. I want to have a work-life balance with my family." He's like, "I'm not going there." So it's just like that kind of gave me some insight to say, okay, this dude, like everybody knows around the coaching world that this dude cares about winning, and you're going to work harder than everybody else. That's what he really does. He just outworks everybody.
Right, which in some
you got to
regards,
appreciate that.
You can appreciate it, but at the same time, from a Christian perspective, there's probably obviously idolatry there, and
correct.
Probably not a healthy work-life balance, obviously. Right. But I mean, when it comes to just them winning, like you can't hate on the program.
Why wasn't he successful in the pros?
Because I don't think it works that way in the pros. You tell me, Dickie, but I don't know if like people.
Because his biggest strength is recruiting.
Yeah, but you're
correct.
You're coaching up young guys like. Your college team that you recruited and gave scholarships to, they got to do what you say. Millionaires who make some money, nah, they don't have to. They don't have to be as
moldable.
Moldable. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little bit different in the pros when guys are millionaires.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much time he had. I know he was there for a short period of time and then went back.
Yeah, it was only 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he liked it very much.
Right.
And he also was a Dolphins.
He probably doesn't like losing.
It was the Dolphins.
It wasn't like a program that was like known for winning too well.
Right.
when he went there.
Well, that's what ticks me off in the coaching world too. I mean, like it just takes time to build a decent program. Like when we grew up, I mean, Joe Pa, like all those guys, like, dude, they were coaches for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And now it's like, hey, dude, if you don't win in 3 years, you're out. And you know what the next guy does? He goes, well, I need 4 years because these aren't even my guys.
Right.
I got to go recruit my own guys. And then he recruits his own guys, and then he doesn't win.
Unless you're Les Miles, you get to win because you had Nick Saban's guys when he left LSU.
They say the same thing with your boy who's there now, who just won, and then he had a horrible season at LSU.
Coach O.
Yeah.
Coach O. I don't know. I don't know much about football.
It is-
I don't. I really don't.
Oh, all right. Next topic. Checking the box.
Trying to like look at his eyes and see if I want this one or not. Josh always has one in there that you don't want to say.
Oh, I know what this is about. We collaborate. Wait.
Collaborated.
Yeah, we collaborated earlier on this.
I feel like it'd make Dickie sad if we said no to one. So
I
I'll
know.
say
No,
yes.
you can say no. I don't care.
Yeah, right.
I don't care at all. How is the Bible reading going?
I knew it.
Great.
I knew it.
Yeah.
You just checking the box.
Are you checking the box or are you?
Oh, I'm reading, studying,
learning?
taking notes. I'm on.
What'd you
I'm
learn
on
today?
Today's Beatitudes. So Stephen, I'm in the finishing the story of
Acts
Stephen
7.
Beautiful.
when his face is like an angel and he says the truth and they stone him for it. And that's where we first see Saul.
Mm-hmm.
They're throwing their coats at the young man Saul's feet. That's where we see eventually he'll become Paul, as we know. And what I really noticed too about Stephen is you see the Christ-like demeanor, because when he's being stoned and he looks up and he sees Christ at his right hand, what does he say? Forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive them for what they're doing.
That's crazy.
Same thing Christ does. Showing godly character, you
Yeah.
know, because otherwise there's no way you respond that way to being stoned for just telling them the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's literally all he did was say, here's what you've done through the entire Bible. Here's the history, and here's what you just did to Christ. And he's here. He's risen. He's real.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, killing you.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I mean, that's essentially what happened.
And he doesn't his speech
greatest summary. Yeah.
it includes too like how they've rejected
Yeah,
the prophets like
the whole way
time
through
and
the
time
Bible.
and time
Yeah.
again, and you
It
still
takes
like
it-
forgive them.
Yeah, it takes it from the whole way.
Yeah.
I was kind of telling Mindy because me and Mindy read it every morning together. That's what we're doing.
Y'all read out
And,
Loud or
out
take
loud.
turns?
I take a
or-
chapter. She takes a chapter.
Nice.
And she always takes Genesis. I'm like, I'll do Psalms. But it's like we were reading that one, and it's just sitting there. I'm like, that's like the greatest summary of
Oh, yeah.
of the gospel.
You want a
Well,
biblical...
that's what they do all through Acts. Anytime
Right.
they preach, they
They give you the full
they recap.
summary.
they go through it. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to know biblical theology? Read Acts.
Acts.
Yeah.
Read those sermons. That's biblical theology.
One like every chapter like really focuses on the preaching of God's word, and that's how the church is
course,
built through
of
the
course.
preaching of God's word. I think like our culture
Right.
kind of like pushes preaching as like a secondary thing.
The more you
but,
read
like,
the Bible, the more you realize how ridiculous the seeker-sensitive movement really is.
yeah.
Well,
Just
it's
tell it like it is, Chad.
right out there. But I was reading like we're underlining not only preaching but teaching. So when you read Acts, like just teaching the word, teaching the word, teaching the word.
Yeah.
Like that always came first. Like everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I'm underlining it 15, 20 times where they got there,
Right.
they taught.
It's the formula. It's the pattern. Like every chapter, they're just like, but what do people focus on? Oh, they spoke in tongues. Like, oh, they had these healings. They had these gifts. Like,
Right.
that's not the point of the.
Well, what was the purpose of all those things? It was they were trying to start the church.
Trap.
I was just listening to it's going through Acts, Tim Keller's sermon yesterday about Christ in Africa. When you see Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch, and what he's trying to what Tim Keller's showing there with a lot of this stuff with the special Holy Spirit, like the healing that the apostles were able to do as well. They're trying to break into cultural barriers that have never been broken before. It takes very specific and very special and very miraculous things to break that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we don't need to do anymore. There was a specific reason for a lot of that speaking in tongues and different things. And it was real languages, by the way. So if it's jibber jabber, it's not biblical speaking
Right.
in tongues. But with the eunuch, he gave the example of like literally he has to run beside the chariot, if you read it correctly, because he doesn't till the end stop and let him up in the chariot.
This is the guy who's reading Isaiah and he doesn't know what he's
It's
reading.
the Ethiopian eunuch. He's reading Isaiah. Doesn't know what he's doing. He just came from worship and literally Philip's running beside the thing.
Hey, you know what you're reading up there?
You know what you're reading up there? Like, he does it for a while, to finally he's like, hey, stop the chair. Like, get up in here.
Right.
Like, talk about ridiculous. Like,
I do wanted to share the gospel.
Right. But then, obviously, he shares the gospel, he gets saved, baptize him, and then the Spirit literally takes Philip to just, like, takes him somewhere else, into Africa. It's just, like, these very miraculous things that are happening because there's never been a divide into other nations, Gentile nations. Like, it's never happened before.
Right.
And so it just like Jesus was doing miracles to the Jews, there had to be some of that to get the church started. But it doesn't mean that that's like what we are doing now. And we have the full Word of God. Yeah. We don't need it anymore.
Right.
So anyway.
Well, what were you saying today?
I digress.
Dickie, you were saying something today about like Pentecost and what you saw like from that and Babel.
Well, yeah, so I love the way the Bible plan that we're doing goes 4 different parts of the Bible, 2 Old Testament, 2 New Testament, and we were reading in Acts on when the Holy Spirit did come down and speak in tongues, right? Mm-hmm. Because there was a bunch of people from different areas all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the Holy Spirit came so they could actually know the gospel, so they could go back and take the gospel to their places.
Right.
But then when you read Genesis, I think 11, it was talking about when he confused them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like now I'm seeing the redemptive story of Christ.
Exactly, yeah.
Saying God, they sinned, so he confused them and sent them all over the world, scattered their languages so they couldn't understand each other. And now Christ is back, he's risen, he's alive, and he gives us the Holy Spirit. And he says, now I'm going to bring you all together again. And it's just like, it's a beautiful redemption.
Well, yeah, and it confirms.
You see now because of the way we're reading, which is
absolutely, yeah.
Well, that's another main thing you see through Acts is like, we're for the Gentiles. Like, we came for the Jews first.
Right.
But the Jews rejected them, so now we're for the Gentiles. And they keep, like, that's the, the common theme throughout Acts is we're going to the Gentiles.
And just to make one more note on what you just said, that Pentecost moment, to reiterate, that miraculous speaking in tongues was that every people from different nations could all hear the gospel in their own language.
Right.
So when people ask all the time, like, what is speaking in tongues? Then we get, if you're not speaking in some sort of language that exists, like real languages, that's not biblical speaking in tongues.
Right.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, like you could have the gift of tongues.
That's a big debate.
Yeah.
You could have the gift of tongues and just have a knack for languages. Like meaning like my brother can speak like 5 languages. He can pick them up really quick.
Right.
He's a gift of tongues.
Right.
Worldly or godly, however you want to look at it.
Right.
Or you could supernaturally be blessed at the time to be able to share the gospel with a group that you don't know that language. You're like,
and then they
how did I
understand
do that?
Right.
Yeah.
You can still do that today.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this hopping around and I don't know what that is, but that ain't in the Bible.
What is it? I bought a Yamaha, should have bought a Honda. That's how you speak in tongues.
Should have bought a Honda.
I bought a Honda, should have bought a Yamaha.
It's tough. Piper talks about it a little bit, about it, like him like being cautious yet open, trying to, because he didn't want to I guess, I don't know the proper word for it, but he's like, I wanted to see, if I felt anything.
Yeah.
And he says he doesn't have that particular moment. He finds it hard. That's why he always says I'm cautious yet open in regards to that. But
when I was explaining to somebody the other day, everything ties back to Scripture, and the purpose is always the gospel. So the purpose of speaking in a tongue would be for the spreading of the gospel.
Right.
There's no other purpose for it
other
than teaching what the Word says. Everything's anchored in God's Word.
Right.
So I'm not saying that, like we said, it's not that it never happens. It's just there should be a purpose.
What's the
for
purpose
it.
behind it?
Right. And if it's for yourself to have some sort of special gift, and so you can be a part of the club or whatever, like, man, it's not biblical at all. Because even Paul, when he talks to the Corinthians, when he says, like, if you're speaking in a tongue, only do it if you have an interpreter, so we can all understand. So it benefits the body.
Right.
That's so if you don't have someone to interpret what you're saying, and if it's not biblical, once again though, Paul they're still writing the scriptures at that time.
Right.
Whereas now there's no need for that because we have the full canon, like we know the full word all the way to Revelation. So and so if it's not in here, if what you're saying isn't being proven within the scriptures, then what worth does it really have anyway?
Right. Now, can it be something in deep meditation to yourself where you're
Sure.
praying in like an outer body experience that you know
Absolutely.
that Christ is there with you, and you say, I don't know what happened during my prayer,
Right.
but I felt the presence of God and the Holy
Absolutely.
Spirit there.
But even in that, if you're praying and you're thinking of things that are unbiblical, it's not God. Because remember, there's spiritual warfare. There's other spirits too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you have a spiritual experience doesn't mean it's a godly, biblical one.
Right.
Everything anchors
Good point.
here. Now you
Good
can,
point.
but that that experience that you're saying, could it happen and it be of God? Of course. Like, you could be meditating on His Word and feel really close. Of course. But once again, anchor what you're thinking and what you're believing in the truth of God's Word.
Yeah.
Amen.
So,
All right, cool. Well, let's move into our topic today, revolving around finance.
Can I just say that you usually have more take it or leave it?
No, I always do 3. All right, I got one more if you want to keep going.
No.
hey, do it for our guest one more. He probably won't have too many things to say about finances.
I don't. It's going to be very short.
We got to get an episode out of this.
Our financial correspondent is speechless.
Back to the basics.
All right, let me think. How can I word this?
Don't worry about it. You don't have it. Let's get to the topics.
You're like the weather guy.
Yeah.
We're going to the weather guy. It's going to rain.
All right, here's
Back
the
to you.
topic.
Possibly.
Here's the topic.
Come on to you, weatherman.
Coming to take them. I don't know who gets this.
No, I don't want to. We're leaving it. So there you go.
Coming to take them.
Hey, leave it.
You know what it
gonna
is?
leave it?
Yeah, I know what it is.
What?
I mean, is it about the end times?
Not really. It's about the government coming to take all our guns.
Oh, okay. No. Maybe you'd have our guns and ammo specialist Brian Jones on here one day,
Okay.
and he can have that discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
well,
I don't have any guns, so they could take it.
I wanted the conversation to be around like,
Take my son's Nerf guns.
ooh,
He'd be upset.
yes,
A bunch of crying.
yeah. The conversation would have been around if the government were to take guns, how does a Christian stand up to that? You know, like it's unconstitutional, but yet it's the government. Anyways, we're gonna leave it.
Leave it.
So-
he was about to get into it. Let's leave it.
Little teaser.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it when they take them. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, so just a rough outline. I think it'd be helpful to give some tips, just some basic tips,
Absolutely.
some mindset,
I've got those.
some misconceptions around money that you see all the time when you're helping people manage money.
Yep.
Maybe a story or something.
Got
Yeah.
a couple of stories.
All right,
And
let's
then
go.
and then the umbrella over all of that, I know it's assumed, but I'll say for our listeners,
Yes.
the spiritual aspects of all those things.
Absolutely. That's the topic of today.
There you go.
I think it would be better. I do better with Q&A. I don't do very well on giving like good advice. If
Okay.
you have to ask me a question, then I can.
I'm good at
actually-
asking questions.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially dumb questions.
Now I will say this.
You're aficionado.
So we did do that financial seminar for the church a few years back in regards to what God thinks about money and how do we handle it rightly. So pointing out scripture and what God says about money, it's mentioned over 800 times. So that's a lot to talk about today.
Wow.
But there's so many people that are out there that want to, right? Christians that say, okay, I want to do what God wants me to do with my money. And then they see it 800 times all over the place. Sometimes it's in parables, sometimes it's literal. So it's very hard to decipher, hey, how does God want me to handle my money correctly?
Well, here's a question to start us off. So before you got into finances, obviously you played sports.
Yep.
I don't know what you did between sports and finance, but what was like, were you always into money? Did you always feel like you had a right view of it? And what was kind of, if not, what was the learning curve to get to where you're at now?
Well, so when we meet with a client, the first thing that we always ask, right, is because we have to figure out what they think about money. And I always ask a question of, hey, what was the first memory that you have regarding money?
I like this.
And it always starts with, well, my mom told me. Well, my dad told me. Well, my grandpa told me. So it always comes from somebody that's taking care of you. And that's where you learn your financial habits. So for me personally, it was my dad, so it's just like, I just always remember my dad being self-employed. He was an entrepreneur. And it was always just, he said, son, it's pretty simple. He said, just take in more money than you spend. And that was like the basic financial principles that I always had.
This
Right.
will be fun. What was your first thought?
Man,
Your first
first
memory,
memory.
of mine.
we don't have money for that.
I was going to say, like,
We don't have that money for.
I always
No, we can't afford that.
I've always had like a famine mentality towards money because
Poverty mindset.
Yeah, because
Totally.
all I ever heard in my life, we ain't got it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we'd get spoiled at Christmas time or for birthdays.
Right.
And like I
Who
didn't
did?
know they were putting it on credit, but I was just thinking like,
I didn't get spoiled.
how is this working? So like,
I don't know who you're talking to.
well, no, I'm just thinking about this. So like, really, what I was learning was that we don't have money, but we can still spend it.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that, and that's how I live my 20s.
Well,
There you go.
my family at least
We went deep right there.
Boom.
at least my family was consistent.
Yeah, right. So
We-
Chad is frugal now.
Right. That's
Like we didn't have any money, and they didn't ever show that we had any money
Right.
because we never spent any money.
We just
on
didn't eat sometimes.
I mean, we had food on the table, but I usually had hand-me-down clothes. My mom, she would clean some houses on the side, and I was friends with one of the kids is like a rich neighborhood, and I'd always get like hand-me-down clothes from him. And I mean, we literally didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Then my dad eventually got a job with the county road department, and stuff got a little bit better,
More
but
secure.
but still, even in that, with my family, it was like, when could this go away? Because when I was really young, my dad, he worked at a factory and was making decent money, and we were kind of climbing the ladder, if you will. And then he got laid off, and we had nothing for like 7 years.
Yeah.
He's working at Walmart in the farm. I mean, it was bad. My mom was cleaning houses, and then he gets the job with the county road department and gets a decent salary again. But it was always like, I mean, you don't ever know when this goes
When
away.
I saw my dad work like crazy, and yet still we never had money. So it's like, well, he's working all the time. Why don't we have money? So that was, I never thought that, but I think that left an impression on me.
Well, I would say that's probably the biggest misconception. So we say things that people think are going to fix their finance issues is more money, but it's not, because we need to fix the habit of how they spend their money.
Right.
So you'll see I see it time and time after again where people are in debt, they get a little raise, they can get out of debt, yet they don't, right? Or they get out of debt because they got a big tax return or because they got a gift or because somebody blessed them. And then, that didn't fix the habit.
Yeah, because
So then-
give them a little time and they're back in the hole.
Right back in it.
Yeah.
So trying to set up a fundamental plan of the basics of how you should actually set up your finances is extremely important. And I always try to give them the Forrest Gump technique.
Okay.
When Lieutenant Dan called, said we ain't had to worry about money no more. And I said, well, that's good. One last thing.
That's right.
So if you can actually set it up to where you don't think about money because it's already set, and Taylor actually said that a couple of times in reading the Bible in his sermon 2 weeks ago. He says, if you don't have a plan, that's probably why you don't finish reading the Bible. If you just say, I'm just going to read the Bible this year, well, that's why most people fall away from it. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with money. It's if you don't
Yeah.
have a plan, I'm going to get out of debt this year, I'm going to save for retirement this year, but I don't have a plan, I just set it.
Right. So you're talking about like getting like your tithe, your savings all on automatic drafts type thing. Just be more practical. Like that's a plan.
Ideally, but some people, and again, like you can't just say it. You can't just say, "Hey, everybody do this." And I'm not going to pick on him, right? Because he's very successful, Dave Ramsey. But when Dave Ramsey talks, he's talking to the masses, right? Because he has a huge following.
Yeah.
So he can't give individual practical advice for each person, and that's really what it takes.
Right.
But he can have some fundamentals where he says, "If everybody does this, I can't be wrong."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you really need to
Which
sit
could
down.
sound extreme.
There's kind of a point of diminishing returns
But
with
at
his
the-
philosophy.
Right.
But I mean, he is by and large teaching the idea of stewardship,
Absolutely.
right? Which is what the Bible talks about and what you guys help do as well.
But how you practically do it per individual,
Right. It can be different.
It has to be different because some people can't do that. Because some people want to have it automatic, but they're still waiting for paychecks. Like
I
they're
can't
robbing
put
people
cash in
to
an
pay Paul.
envelope. Like that just
Well,
doesn't
even
work
if-
with my personality.
Right. No. But
Well,
I don't have envelopes.
I'm super lucky because I'm good at making a plan, like the vision,
And then Marie will.
and she sticks to it. But the best part is I don't hardly spend anything. Like she's the money manager, but we've met with you before. The idea of the spending money or the walking around money. I mean,
Weighing
everything's itemized down to groceries to we even put a little bit away each month for like oil changes and car repairs. Like, so we're never stressed about can we pay our bills this month. That's already like off the top. We're never stressed about are we going to tithe. That's already out. So all we're managing really is those like how much spending money do I have left?
right.
Is all we're
How
really
much
managing.
walking around money do I have?
Because everything else is it's gone.
Right.
You know.
That's good. Any other questions?
What was your story like?
My story personally?
Yeah, like coming into the world of finance, like what were some, I guess your biggest misconception was you got to make more than you spend.
Well, yeah, that's not a misconception. That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the fact. So, and again,
Yeah,
when growing my business, maybe I didn't leverage credit like other people. It took me a little bit longer because I never wanted to borrow money, right? And now 10 years in my business, I'm understanding how to leverage banks and how to leverage credit for my success I understand the risk associated with it. And it's protected risk.
Right.
But when I got started, it was very slow building because I wasn't going to overextend myself because I had to have these fundamentals like I need 3 to 6 months of cash reserves. I need to pay myself a salary. I can't live off of whatever I make that month. So my story was a little bit different than maybe a traditional. I've got a job. This is what they pay me.
Yeah.
How do I get out of this?
Right, because when you get into your profession, you're self-employed.
Yeah. So
you belong to Northwestern Mutual, but like you're your own boss.
Yep. So I can make as much money as I want, and I can make as little money as I want.
Right.
And that's very hard explaining to your wife sometimes. When it's like, hey, I want this, and it's, well, I don't know if we can afford it. Well, can't you just make as much money as you want? Yes. I said, but technically I can, but technically it's really hard, and we want to have that work-life balance.
Yeah.
But in regards to money, I've always just been super frugal. I've just always had that mentality is I have to have the money, the savings first, and then I can take the risk.
Right.
But that's biblical.
Yeah.
When we look at it, so that's the first part of any big budget is, okay, I have to protect myself. And when you look at it with Joseph, the 7 years of feast and 7 years of famine, like he predicted that the emergencies would come. So it was, I need to save up 7 years of grain. So we need to do the same thing. We know hard times will come.
Right.
I'm pretty sure everybody says, yeah, there's been hard times in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's been times when things are good.
Yeah.
But when things are good, we can't just
It's not time to blow everything.
blow everything.
Yeah.
We have to say, okay, well, we have to protect ourselves for those hard times.
Right.
So that's
not like, because Jesus says, do not worry about tomorrow, for the evil of today is enough to worry about.
Right.
But we still should plan for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just
Correct.
not in a state of anxiety or worry, right?
if you don't have any money,
Yeah.
you will worry.
And I'll say the heart behind all that is the idea of being content in the Lord and being content with what you have in Christ. Like, there's only so much that you need in life.
Correct.
Right? More toys, bigger houses, more stuff doesn't bring you satisfaction or happiness. Keeping up with the people around you, the Joneses, isn't going to make you happy. Christ is what's going to satisfy you. And the mentality of your money should be stewardship, meaning you're a manager of God's funds.
Correct.
Whatever you're getting, whatever job you have, whatever you're doing, God is the one who's given you the ability and the opportunity to do that thing. And so it's first fruits to Him, manage, steward, pay your bills, save, a decent amount. Live. You don't have to live like strapped or like you can't enjoy things, but it's enjoying in moderation, not in excess, right? Because my contentment doesn't come from that big vacation that I get to take. Sometimes I get to take that vacation and I enjoy God's grace in that way, but that's not where my satisfaction should come from.
Right.
But when you're finding your satisfaction in things or in the approval of others, it's going to drive your choices, and a lot of times it leads people in famine, and you find out when you're in famine, those same people that you were trying to keep up with, they're not bailing you out.
Right.
Or all those fun momentary times you had, they're gone. You know what I mean? What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
And so that's just more of a heart issue of idolatry that'll lead you down the wrong path. And what you're saying is, here's how to steward well in the way God's designed it.
Well, I think I need to take a step back because we can give a bunch of practical advice on what the Bible says about how to steward your money properly. But I think the first thing that anybody needs to do, especially, every Christian needs to do, is they need to treasure Christ first. Because when you treasure Christ and He's your treasure and He's all you care about, then you become all of those things in regards to money. You will become a cheerful giver. You'll take care of orphans and widows. You'll pay your church. You'll take care of your pastors. Like all of those things there's 800 things in the Bible. All those things you will become because out of pure joy of Christ. Like it's like, no, of course I'm going to give to my church. of course I'm going to give to the Lord's house. Of course I'm going to give to this widow. I need to take care of her.
Yeah.
Like, not because the Bible tells me to, because God's heart's pulling, my heart is pulling me towards her because I love her. So that's really where we need to start, is with the heart and treasuring Christ. And then money is just a tool for everything that he wants us to do.
Yeah.
So I want to start there.
Yeah, that's good.
That's right.
Well, so that's obviously a big misconception seeing people. What are some other just like mismanagement of funds that you'll see a lot, like some of the more common ones?
Yep. So I'll say, when you look at a budget, right? So people say, and I always go back to church, but it's like, hey, do I put God first in my life? And then they say yes. And then we ask them, or a pastor would ask them, well, how much time do you spend reading your Bible? And it's like, well, if that's first in your life, that's 15 minutes versus 3 hours of Netflix.
Right.
And if you really, I always tell people, if you really want to know what somebody truly cares about, watch where they spend their money. That's easy. So I get an unfortunate pleasure of, when I go through a budget with people, of understanding exactly what they treasure most. So, well, this person really loves his kids because they spent a lot of money at the school. This person really loves cars because their biggest note is their car notes. This person really loves their house. That's their biggest person. This person really loves eating out. Like, I'll see exactly what they truly care about. Right. The truly things. This person really cares about saving up retirement and being secure because all they do is save and they don't do anything else. Right. And that's what I can see. And then we say, okay, well, what are we trying to accomplish? We need to have some rules so that none of this becomes an idol, like Chad always talks about.
Yeah, you're proving the principle. What you believe is what you do. Yep. You can tell somebody all day what you believe in, but like you said, I mean, if you look at someone's finances, you can tell real quick. Yep.
Now, this is the problem, because nobody has a plan. So I asked 2 different questions, and these are the big questions that I always ask. You do a budget? Oh, yeah, we do. We budget. And everybody pulls out their budget, and it's usually on a piece of paper that they've written down. Yeah. Right? You've done it a million times, right? Right. And I said, okay, well, what is your philosophy behind budgeting, right? And they say, well, and it's always very generic. It's like, we try to be frugal. We want to make sure we're not overpaying for things. We want to have money for everything to do. And I said, yeah, but what's the philosophy, right? So if they don't have one, and very rarely they do, I give them the 60-20-20 rule. So 60-20-20 is off of your take-home pay. 60% is you should never exceed 60% in your fixed expenses.
Which so all your bills, your house.
Tithes, bills, groceries, food, right?
Yeah. So I like that you put tithe in there.
That's first.
That should be first.
It's always the first. And it's fun when I go through it because, some people go, what's tithe?
Is that
It is silent.
Yeah. But again, at 60%. So 60% means I'm never overextending myself in my fixed expenses. So I'm never house poor. I'm never car broke, right? It's now I'm living within my means. We've heard that a lot. So that's how we figure it out, 60%. That still leaves 40% left over. 20% should go to walking around money. I call it wham.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
You got to get that wham because Gator needs is walking around money. So you should have 20% allocated to living a lifestyle so you can enjoy.
Eating out.
Eating out,
right.
Buying clothes, buying guns, right? Buying running shoes that I know you love so much, right? Enjoying those particular things, right?
I still got the same Brooks from our marathon.
Nutritional goos, right? So buying the things that you like to do.
You bought the store out on those.
Hey, those were nice. Hobbies, right? But those are your hobbies. Those are taking care of your kids, spoiling them a little bit, but within that 20%. You don't go over, but you're allowed to burn it. You're about to light it on fire because you've set that rule. Right. And then the other 20% should go to savings. And you only save for 4 things. That's it. You save for major purchases, which is like I'm saving for my kid's school. I'm saving
down payment on the house.
Down payment on a house, a new toy, a down payment on a car. I'm saving for kids' education. Sorry, so school is actually
trips,
separate.
I guess, would be in that.
That's also vacations, bigger things other than the 20%. Expansion of a business if you're a business owner, right? That's a major purchase. Education. Now I'm saving for, and education can mean different things to different people. High school, daycare, travel baseball, right? That's like an education for your kids. Yeah. But mostly it means college, right, for my kids. Right. Retirement, right? and then speculation. If there's any money, then I can get into
Play
the thing
around
that
in
I
the
can
stock
I can
market.
invest, I can short Tesla, right? Then I can go
Yeah.
in there and get on Robinhood and buy some cryptocurrency, things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, 20% should be allocated there. And now those are going to move throughout your years because in the beginning of your life, I want a house. So maybe most of my savings might be 15% might be going there,
Right.
5% towards my retirement. And then once I get the down payment, probably have a kid, I start moving some of that money to education. And then we have another kid, so the wife wants a bigger house. So then I got to move it back over to the major purchase. And then it's just a game that we have to play.
Within
to
that
see-
20%, you're kind of reallocating what's going to what.
It's always there, right? But that's the rule. So now we always live within our means. We never overextend ourselves. We always have money for today for the things that we care about. And we always have money for the future for the things that we know we will need.
Right.
And now it's all figured out.
Yeah.
And that's the way you should run it. So that's the first question, philosophy I give them.
Do you
questions on that?
If you have a business owner, because you mentioned that,
Yep.
like, should they run their business that same way?
They should.
Okay.
So when you're a business owner, right, that's the big question is, well, I don't know how much to pay myself. Like, I don't know 60%.
Right.
Well, we know what our bills are, right? Like, regardless of how much money you have bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say yes. So I said, okay, well, we got to figure out what our bills are, and we got to work backwards from there.
Yeah.
So say you're a business owner, and for easy numbers, right? Okay, well, my bills are $3,000. Okay, well, $3,000. We know that you need to take $5,000. $5,000 is what you need to pay yourself if you wanted to live within the 60-20-20.
Yeah.
And now it's okay. Well, we've done that, but he goes, well, I don't know. Sometimes I make $2,000. Sometimes I make $13,000. Well, that's why we have to go back to the original of, well, what do I have in reserves? Do I have 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have 6 months, well, now I've got my salary for 6 months, so I can pay myself
Right.
for. So if and this is where you got to coach them.
Mm-hmm.
I made $2,000. How much do you pay yourself? I pay myself $5,000.
All right.
Right? But I had to take $3,000 from my emergency fund. Next month, I make $10,000. How much do you pay yourself? $5,000.
Right.
Right? And now my income goes, like my savings
Yeah, and
account
then
goes
that
up.
extra replenishes.
And at the end of a year, when we do a review, we can easily audit, hey, were we successful or unsuccessful? If we were unsuccessful, we don't have 6 months anymore. We might have 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we actually didn't make enough. We were pulling in from our savings. We might have to lower our take home.
Right.
Like wham's going to go away first, and then savings will go away.
Mm.
But if we're good, hey, man, we got a year. Hey, you did really well. We can actually give ourselves a raise.
Okay.
So now we can give ourselves a small raise and start increasing our own salary.
Right.
So that's how we work with business owners.
Yeah, because their income's going to be varied.
Fluctuates.
Okay.
But what you see a lot, and I know, but business owners that find themselves without a plan, it's I make $2,000, I spend $2,000. I make $5,000, I spend $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
I make $2,000, I spend $5,000. Like
Yeah.
then they get used to that, and
Right.
all of a sudden, now I'm trying to.
What do you think about this
figure
plan?
it out?
When we were doing houses, because it was me and a partner, we'd get paid, and then we'd each take a third of the payment, and the rest would go into the account for operating.
Okay.
So our income was varied. So
Right.
we would just kind of roll with the tide, but we'd always have 30% in there for
Whatever you might need.
operating and savings and new marketing plans, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on. So now it's like you don't know what your income is going to be.
Yeah, never
Because you're
know.
taking a third of the profits.
But hey, I can always make more money.
You can always make more money. You can always go find another flip.
Let's go work harder.
But if it works, it works. But most of the time, if it doesn't work, I say, well, this definitely works.
Right.
Like figure out what your expenses are and what your partner's expenses are,
Mhm.
and then you guys should pay yourselves that, right? Plus the 40% if
Right.
you can afford to, and
Right.
that's how you should roll.
Yeah. Well, that also helps you set income goals as a business, because a lot of times as a business, you're like, I don't know, I want to make as much money as possible.
Yep.
But as the question comes up, well, like, but what should my goal be?
Right.
Well, if I know I need this much to live, and these are my expenses, that's 60%. So 100% of that is X amount. I need to make this amount.
How do I make more money?
Yeah. Then you can set goals for that income.
That's right.
Cool.
I will say the other question that I ask people, because people want to do it, and then they don't know how. And that's where the envelope system and let me take a step back. Dave Ramsey's not bad, right? And that's why I love how what's it called that individuals will go do for him that use that book.
Yeah.
Because that's what they need. They need somebody to teach that class to an individual basis.
Well, his like bread and butter is getting out of massive debt.
Right. It's
and
the
teaching
the
like
snowball.
stewardship.
Yeah, the snowball.
But like that is like getting you back to square one. Then you need, you know.
So he sets
what do you do once you're out of debt?
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now he's setting those parameters though, right? Which, and again, it's people who usually do that. They have this continuing fear of debt. So then they stay in a very frugal mindset for a very long time.
Freeze their credit cards.
I try to like
literally in the freezer.
Yeah, try to break them out of that. You know, but it's good to get them out of debt. But I say, okay, well now we got to figure out how you can track this. So I ask. It's a little different sometimes, but for 70% of the time, it's the same questions. I say, do you pay your bills out of the same account that you get your direct deposit? And it's usually yes. I said, okay, well, it's really hard to audit. If I asked you what your bills were, this month, you'd say, I don't know, let me go see. Because you're going to see the deposits, deposit bill. And then I say, now, do you go out to eat and buy clothes out of the same account that you pay your bills? Well, yeah, I do that too.
Right.
Okay, now it's really hard to audit.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to live by a 60-20-20, I would stop after a week. Because I'd be like, okay, there's a deposit. That's my new balance.
Oh, it's a full-time
that's a
job.
bill. That's a bill.
I've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my problem.
So the way it works, the way it should work, is I've got an income account, right? So all
Deposits
my
going
money, just
there.
deposits, all my savings and all my direct deposits go into one account. And after I do a budget, I know what my bills are going to be. I know what my fixed expenses are.
Right.
Whether they're 60% or 80% or 40%, most of the time 80, 90. But whatever they are, I know what they are. So on the first of the month, I can drop that in there. So if my bills are $3,000, I can easily on the first of the month put $3,000 in the expense account.
What do you do about like bills like electricity that go up and down?
That's right.
You just plan for the worst?
I always say, what's your highest electric bill?
Oh, okay.
So we always go with the highest. And then we put like a little 5% buffer in there.
Yeah.
But $3,000, I know that's happening, dropping in on the first.
Okay.
So now I can easily audit that month, right? So I'm sitting there and maybe it's the 23rd and I've got $200. I go, what happened, right? We still have bills and we need food and I've only got $200. I can easily go back and audit. I just look at that account and it shows me all my expenses. Shouldn't be anything else in there.
Right.
And I go, oh, wait, family came over. We had to go buy extra burgers and extra hot dogs.
Right.
Okay, that screwed us up, which is okay, right? I'm not saying like that's a bad thing.
Right.
But now we easily knew what happened. Hey, let's transfer a little bit money.
Yeah.
Let's try to
You
try to
take
be a
that
little bit more
from your
frugal.
WAM or from?
They'll take it from the income account, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Like we have to, like our expenses were a little higher.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have, but at least we know where it came from and we can work on it next month.
Right.
Hey, let's plan for these things now. Next thing is then the 20% walking around money should be separate.
So far you got two accounts. Now your WAM's the third account?
Third account. Like if
Okay.
I know it's $1,000, $1,000 goes into my personal debit card, and I'm allowed to buy it whenever I want.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want with it. If I come home, and I don't buy guns, but I always say that, like if I come home with a gun or a new pair of running shoes,
Right.
like Mindy doesn't go, well, how much were those shoes?
Right.
She goes, those are nice.
Did
And
they
I
come
said,
out of your WAM account?
They do. Yeah. I said, that's nice. And I said, I like your hair today. I said, I don't even care how much it costs. Because it comes
Do
out.
y'all have
of a
separate
WAM.
debit accounts?
Separate WAMs.
Okay.
Right.
Now this
So you'll
is
transfer some to you and some to her.
some to her, some to you. It's 10. Well, I always make a joke, right? It's like 20%, 10. I say 15 to her, 5 to the man.
Right.
And everybody goes, ha ha. But it should be 10%, 10%.
Right.
And regardless of who makes more money, it doesn't matter, right? 10%.
Right,
here,
because I guess
10%
your
to
income
you.
account is both of your incomes.
We're
coming
married.
in.
Right.
We
You're
share
one.
everything. You get 10%, I get 10%. And this is I save marriages, by the way. But it makes marriage and date night. Like we went out to date night last night.
Oh, who pays?
That's like whoever initiates,
Ah,
right? So it's like, man, my wife.
that's cool.
My wife invited me, like asked me out on a date. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, let's go get food and we're both gonna pay for it. It's like, no. She loves me enough where she's gonna take some of her wham and spend it on me,
Right.
right? So, but we're also like, what do you want to do tonight? And we're like holding out. Hope she asked me out.
Yeah, that's right.
Like check
Who's-
the account.
Who's going to initiate first?
Yeah.
These running shoes are really nice, but I don't have
Sometimes
room
I'm-
for a date.
Sometimes I'm begging. I'm like, please, I've got $1.67 left in my Wham account.
Yeah.
It's the 14th. I need money. I was like, give me $3.
I don't feel pretty anymore. Ask me out on a date.
But again, that's the way we structure it, and it's within the time frame. And people, once they know what to expect, they can live within it. And now I've got a plan. Life isn't stressful anymore. I'm not stressing out over money, because 3 reasons people get divorced, right, or separated is faith, money, and sex. And if you're stressing out on money, it probably stresses out the sex life. Right? And if you're stressing out on money and sex, like, you're probably not focused on your faith either. Like, it does create a lot of sin. It creates a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. So having a plan, I do believe, will free your mind up to focus on love and Jesus.
Yeah, just to be a little vulnerable. When my wife is anxious about money, like, nothing's happening that night. Like, we have to deal with, she has to know, like, her husband has a plan.
Yep.
When she feels secure, then it's, same thing goes emotionally and spiritually.
Yeah.
She feels like, oh, I don't know what's going on with him spiritually. She's not going to, nothing's going to happen that night. So,
Correct.
All right, so far you got 4 accounts.
Yep.
Two WAMs,
Yep.
an income account, and your expenses account.
And the income, expenses, 2 WAMs, and then the FSA,
Then we got,
the financial security account.
which
So
is
that's
a
the
savings
savings
account.
account.
And that's typically where I come in.
So you got to get 5 accounts.
Well, yeah, typically I come in on the financial savings account because it's going to be spidered. I mean, by spider's like, it's going to come in one account, and then it's going to shoot out to a lot of different things,
Oh,
right? Because there's 4 different things I talked about. So, hey, I'm saving if it's 5,000, 3,000 expenses, 1,000 walking around, 1,000 goes to savings. But we have to have a plan. Well, how much should we allocate towards emergency fund? How much should we allocate towards retirement? How much should we allocate towards children's education? So it might be 400 there, 300 here, right? 200, 300 here. So it's like, okay, now we got to figure that out. So that we'll do that. We'll spend $400 in savings. We'll spend $300 and $300 in kids' education funds, and then we'll spend the rest in retirement.
and so are they? You say you come in, like,
Yeah.
So you're managing all those accounts?
No. So that's the only account I manage.
Oh,
Right. So like I'll help them with the structure, and then Varsity Wealth, right, will come. We'll say, okay, well, we're going to take 1,000 out of the income account, and that one will get spidered to your savings account, emergency fund that you hold with us. It'll also be into your kids' education account, which we'll typically invest based off your risk tolerance.
okay, all right.
And then we'll put money into a Roth IRA or
So these are not
401k.
liquid anymore. They're tied up.
The cash management account's liquid. The kid account could be liquid depending on how you like to pay your taxes and what you need from a liquidity standpoint.
Yeah.
And then retirement could be liquid or probably not. It's probably a long-term tax-deferred account. But now we've got a plan, and it's going out automatic, and I'm managing it for them. We have reviews. And I really like the cash management account, the emergency fund sometimes, being held with me, because now if they need it, they got to call somebody,
Oh yeah.
and they got to give that reason. But again, some people don't want that.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
people are like, well, because it's my money.
Right.
And I said, well, we talked about this.
Well, I don't want to call you and be like, "Hey, I overspent. Like, I feel like I failed." Like, I bought those shoes or whatever.
But at the end of the day, it happens all the time. So again, it's like, it's not saying, hey, this is perfect. This is what we're going to do forever, which we will. But it gives us that basis to go back to. It's like that scale. Hey, where am I? Hey, things got a little out of whack. We got to get back to the basics.
Right.
And unfortunately, I know I'm talking a lot, but
No, that's what we want.
Yep. But unfortunately, like, because of the way most people grow up, we grow up in debt, we take school debt, we have all these dreams of getting a house, getting a car, having a kid. Sometimes by the time I meet them, we got to work backwards
Yeah.
because we sit at 80%.
Right. And it's
nobody-
hard to get rid of all. Like, you're gonna tell them to go sell their house to get rid of it, or their cars, or whatever.
And if it's 80, do you think the 20 is going to be towards wham or savings?
Oh, wham.
They're going wham, right? They're not going to be like, I'm not going to do anything fun, and I'm going to save, and I'm going to pay these bills.
Yeah.
So we have to start figuring out, okay, now we got to take care of credit card debt. We
Yeah.
got to get you to 60. But sometimes it's hard to. And the hard truth is sometimes I go, well, and I wish I could get everybody before they grow up and become adults. Because I said, you know what the difference between retiring and not retiring is, or being financially secure and not being? I said, you bought a house that was $20,000 more than you should have. And you bought a car that was $6,000 more.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't sound much at the time.
Right. It's $50 a month over the
50
next
bucks
50
here.
years.
$100 extra on the house, but you got the extra room for nobody to sleep in. But and you got the extra car with the third row seat that your kid's friend's going to sit in,
Right.
once a year. But again, that has prevented you from saving that $100 or $300 that was supposed to be there. So I said, okay, we got 2 options. I said, we take away from the walking around money and we save appropriately, or you sell your house, move into a smaller house, and you sell your car, get a cheaper car. They go, we ain't doing that. So again, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, how do you feel about credit cards?
I like them.
Okay,
I like credit cards. I like points.
right.
Yeah.
So how do you
I'm
recommend
going
people
skiing.
use
I'm going skiing in March. Free flight.
Right. So can your wham be from a credit card? Can
Yes.
your expenses come from a credit card? I know it kind of screws up how you're managing it. But
Nope, it's easy. So if your credit
I like
card, like
easy.
all your revolving debt, right, like all your revolving fixed expenses, that's really where I say use it there.
Because you know you're going to pay it back.
And well, it has to. Bill, right? I can put all those bills automated on my credit card.
Yeah.
And now I'm not paying 6 bills out of the expense account. I'm paying that one credit card bill in one day.
Right.
And I know
you
what
can
it
go and
is.
audit it and see, it's these 5
I
things.
know that credit card bill should be $800, right? And on the 21st or the 1st, whenever the bill is, hey, if it's not $800, I can easily go back and audit it.
Right.
But that's taking care of all of my bills. And a lot of people have to do that if they want to get on this system because they don't have the money, right? Like, hey, I don't have enough money to pay my all 3 bills on the 1st to the 15th. I actually got to wait till the 23rd because I don't have an emergency fund. So it's really hard to work and budget when you're always waiting for a paycheck.
Right. So you got to get ahead of that.
You got to get ahead of it. You got to use credit, but some people can't have credit because they've already maxed it out.
Yeah.
So we have the snowball or the debt reduction, debt modification plan. We want to make sure we're paying off debt. We want to make sure we're paying it off efficiently.
Yeah.
We want to have a plan for that. But again, this is all based off of having a solid foundation because, again, going back to Scripture, if you don't, it's like shifting sands.
Right.
Like if I'm just going to and fro of whatever happens that month, but if I've got a solid plan built on rock, which is what the system is, it's okay, now I know how to weather the storm.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. What about like things like big purchases like home, cars? Do you have like a percentage of the overall budget that you recommend people use? What's like the house budget?
Let me pull it up. Let's see.
So far, this is great advice.
Yeah.
I
So the housing-
didn't know a lot of this.
Yeah.
So of your 60%, housing budget should be 30%.
Of your 60%.
Of your 60, which would be mortgage, home maintenance, homeowners insurance, phone, electric, gas, water, cable, internet, and trash.
All of that is 30%?
That's 30%.
Holy, of 60%.
That's right.
Which is, what is that of 100%?
Well, if you're going with that 3,000, that's $1,500
Yep.
for house.
Yep. So,
Okay.
which is, maybe a
Yeah.
$1,000 a month note, then a couple $100 in utilities, and then I got a home maintenance like
Which
air
I'm
filters.
I'm
light
listening to
bulbs.
you because we've met this before. I'm like, because Marie and I, Dickie's our guy,
Right.
so we've done this, and I'm like, I'm happy with myself because I'm like, yeah,
what we
$1,500.
did.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Which is nice.
So what do you do, like, let's say you want to save, like, for a big house repair.
That's right.
Is that going in your savings? Or, like, can
That's
I put...
major purchase.
Okay.
Like a major purchase is a renovation.
What about things that happen in your house, but they don't happen every month or like every 3 to 6 months? That cost maybe a couple $100, you know?
You're talking about like what?
I don't know. Okay, how about this? My vehicle, I know at some point I'm going to need $400 in
That's
tires.
right. So we sit there and we say, what's a major purchase in the short term?
That's a major purchase.
Oh yeah. I mean,
okay.
for some, it's a major purchase, a toy or a car.
Something that you're not doing every month is
That's
a major
right.
purchase.
Like we know a new car might come up.
Right,
So
yeah.
like to say you like tires is one thing, but a new car is like, hey, my car's old,
Yeah.
but I don't want to, and I got a good deal on this car, but I know I'm going to need a bigger car, and I know I need my note to be at 300, right? Well, a $50,000 or a $30,000 car is not going to be $300 a month. So I need to start saying, okay, well, how much do I need to put down on that car
to make that
to keep my note?
So that's your goal to save.
That's my
too.
goal.
So you're okay with taking out loans for vehicles?
Absolutely. As long as I don't care what you do, as long as you stay within 60%.
Right.
Like you could have all of your money, you shouldn't, right? But all your money could be your house and your car if it's 60%, right? You say, well, that's where I'm at. But unfortunately, that's very dangerous.
You can't eat.
You can't eat.
Yeah, because where's the grocery budget at?
Correct. But they say, well, you see that a lot. Like,
They'll
I'm
just
doing
eat
great
out.
because I live with my mom, right? Or like I got roommates or whatever it may be. Like, hey, I'm doing fine right now, but it's like in 3 months you're not, or when you need the new car you won't be.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
like student loan, you're doing great now, but once you get the house, you won't be.
Right.
So again, that's why 30% is a good number. Transportation should be 10%. So of your auto payments, auto insurance, gas, and maintenance, 10% should be allocated to that.
Right.
So what's 10% of 3,000?
$300.
So I'm trying to think through. Okay.
Yeah, you're doing good.
I'm so far.
You're doing good.
I'm on
I
track.
remember when you bought that Hemi.
Hey,
So
baby,
you got a good deal.
it's paid off.
That's right.
That's 2 vehicles and
right.
all that. So if you got mom and dad, they're running around.
That's right.
Or pay those
I got some work
cars
to
off.
do, boys.
We got zero car payments, so $300. It's not hard to do with the other parts. Of it.
Yeah.
Right. But again, I don't want it to be stressful.
Right.
We have to go through this process.
I'm stressed.
Every 6 months to a year.
It's already
it's funny because
Also just took a big pay cut. So.
well, I'll go ahead and say it's like most people do not think this is what I do, right? Most people want to come in.
They think you invest money.
And, well, it's what I do, right?
Right.
But what I found over my 10 years of practice was, man, I'm helping people save money. We're talking about investments. We're diversifying their portfolio. We're tax bracket management. We're protecting. But I wasn't handling any of the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I started saying, okay, let's start with a budget. And it's funny, nobody ever asks, even doesn't matter if you make $1 million or you make $100. When we go through this process, nobody goes, hey, can you send me the portfolio and the way you manage money and rebalance automatically? And they go, you send me that budget?
Yeah.
Like
That's what I'm wondering.
Like send me that budget.
Right.
And everybody
Well, because
loves
that
it.
gives them control.
That's right.
Now I can actually have control of this. Everyone wants control
Right.
of their finances, but I've just tried different things my whole life. Like try this budget, try that budget.
Well, in good stewardship,
Google.
is management of something. Like, and if you have no plan or no idea, you're not stewarding what God's given you well.
Right.
Because there's no plan. You're just kind of winging it every month, hoping that
Yeah.
you made the right choices.
Well, some people have the heart of wanting to steward. They just don't have the tools.
Right.
You know?
And I say this all the time.
Some people like building
We've
things. They just
started.
don't know how.
We've started our yeah, that's
Right heart.
We've started our kids. They get some. I have some jobs they do and they get paid, and then we sit down and do a ledger and we do tithe, we do budgeting, because like no one taught me how to budget anything. So like I want my kids to grow up knowing how to like think about money in a stewardship type of way.
Yeah.
Because like to your point, most people have no idea. They become adults and they make paychecks from their job and it's like, oh, I got more money than I've ever had. I can buy that thing.
Right.
You say that. Speaking of Tyler Beer, one of our elders,
Mm-hmm.
he always talks about he's like, I can remember we've struggled. We were switching to spiritual and tithe, which is a big topic.
Yeah.
But he would say, I can remember we would struggle from time to time, but bills would get paid, bills wouldn't get paid. But he said, but my dad I always saw my dad write a check to the church.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's why his fundamentals on tithing is so important because he learned it from his father.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again, teaching our kids good financial biblical principles is important, and that's a good topic though. What's the question? What's the right amount to tithe?
Starts with 10%.
Yeah. In
But-
Egypt they did 25%.
But the New
Or
Testament,
20%.
the New Testament, says in your abundance, right? But we tell people the baseline, because tithe means tenth, so the baseline is 10%.
Yeah.
So we're starting there, but then prayerfully, I'll take Marie and I. We want to continue to, as God blesses more, to give to more things above our tithe.
Because there's so many other things too. Like, yeah, you want to support your church, but then a missionary from your church gets sent out. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I want to support you.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
So that is all into the tithe budget.
And on the
But
tithes,
also, if you tithe to your church, you are contributing because, like, for instance, in our situation, like, we give to Lauren as a church, like, a big. So if we had more tithe from our people, that's going to be stewarded to that missionary
Yeah,
going out from
that's
the church,
true.
too.
So this is a lot of common misconceptions you get in the church on tithing. Well, I give my 10%, to different various things every
Right.
month. Sometimes I might pay somebody's mortgage, or sometimes I might, give to a neighbor, or I might give to a missionary this month. So they decide and choose where that 10% goes.
Yeah.
Or they might say, I've got half that goes to the church and half that goes to missionaries. But when you start, and I was the same, because I grew up where, you just throw $1 in the bucket, because the Catholic Church was so rich. So it was just like
Right.
they don't need my money.
Yeah.
I mean, they're extremely wealthy, and you get it from the schools, right? Like the archdiocese had, like we were paying tuition, and you would justify it there. Like,
Yeah.
well, I paid to that Christian school, and that's where the money goes.
Right.
But when you sit down, and I was lucky enough to sit down with Pastor Sam and have It was early in the church when
Yeah.
he could sit down with people. And I said,
Hey, look at us.
We're right here, right now.
I said, this is nice. I got to sit down and break it down because I wanted to do what was right. Because again, my heart had changed, and I said, I want to do what's right with my money.
Right.
And it's 10% goes to the house that feeds you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that 10% goes to your church, your local church, storehouse,
Right.
so that they can get
Right.
fed, so that they can feed you.
And we didn't make that up. Read your Bible. It's all in there.
Yep,
So,
so
it's not your pastor saying, give us 10% of your money. It's not how it works.
All right. And that's what I wanted to do. And it made sense because it's like, okay, well, it's there, it's in the Bible, and I've got to give it to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Cain will show you what happens.
Yeah. Genesis 4, by the way.
Yep, Genesis 4, which we just read.
Yeah.
But he wants your best, right? And that's showing you that this matters more. You're first,
Yeah.
nothing else. So if I've got $1,000, right, I don't pay all my bills and then give them the last 100. That first 100 goes out.
I got a question on that because sometimes it comes up. Most of us are W-2 employees.
Correct.
So what you're getting is already taxed, and your expenses are your expenses. But if you're self-employed, a lot of times you may get a huge sum of money, but you've got a lot of operating expenses
That's right.
that come out of the top of that.
Correct.
Like if I were to give 10% when we were flipping houses, I would have zero left for myself.
Correct.
Like I would spend more than it took.
Which I think I love, and you're probably going to say this, how you got back to paying yourself a salary.
That's right.
And then you actually have something to
Right.
give
So
from.
then you use that salary
That's right.
for
And
yourself.
then at the end of the year, you see, okay, well, what did I take home?
Mm-hmm.
What are my distributions after, my expenses?
Right.
And then I pay my 10%.
So if you're a W-9, you really need to set up a corporation or LLC. So then from that, you need to pay yourself.
Correct.
So then
Or
you
you-
got two budgets going on.
That's right. As a business owner,
Yeah.
you kind of sit there and you say, okay, where do I sit at the end? What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
Which most of us, if we're a single self-employed, it's really just pass through. Like
Right.
you're getting paid, but it's coming straight to you.
So
But
you
if
gotta
you
figure
have
that
real business expenses, you can't really tithe before that because you will be left with negative.
Correct.
So
And it's not really your money. It's
Ex-
somebody else's money.
exactly, you got accounts payable.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's a big misconception on the tithe, the 10%, right? That was Old Testament. And actually, we were reading Genesis, and I saw it the first, Abraham just did 10th. It just said 10th. There was no reason for that. That's just what it said.
Right.
And then it goes, and he says it again. And then it's not until the Levites come, where they have the 12 tribes,
Right.
where you start seeing everybody taking care of their elders.
Yeah.
Right.
So even before that, they were giving 10% to God,
Right.
Yeah.
regardless.
Right.
To take care of the Levites because they didn't get any land.
Well, even before that, Abraham was just giving 10% to God.
Right.
Nobody
Right.
told him to. He just did it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time you see it. And
Right.
then you see it with the Levites saying, okay, we got to take care of the people that are taking care of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the additional
Mm-hmm.
stuff that it comes from, okay, now I want to give to a mission. That's above and beyond. That should come out of WHAM.
Right.
Oh, really?
That should come out of your WHAM. Or if you want to throw that in your fixed expenses, you can, right?
Right. Like
But-
I'm going to support this missionary every month for the next 10 years.
Yep.
Now I'm giving 12%
Correct.
in my
I'm giving 10% to the church, and
Yeah.
I'm giving
2%
but now I'm not
over here.
obligated, right? Like, hey, this is out of the overflow of my heart.
But you want to
I wanna
budget
give it
well,
here.
and you know you're going to do it every month. So
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
But then that opens up another opportunity in your WHAM to just give freely.
Give freely.
That's cool.
Cheerful giver.
All right.
Yeah. I like
Okay, but real quick, the taxes. So like, if someone's a W-9, they're paying their own taxes.
Yep.
Are you given before you pay taxes?
That's highly debatable.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
because
very highly
W-2,
debatable.
they don't get that opportunity.
So the only time, and this is a good debate that I can have with Pastor Chad here,
Debate.
because when you see it, and I don't know what to say on that one, right? But I always say, let's just try to get that take-home pay, and let's
Right.
try to get the 10% there. Let's start there. If we can get there,
Yeah.
and you can still be comfortable, okay, now we can move on to 10% before taxes,
Right.
not after. And I always
I would
don't-
agree with that.
I don't know the answer.
Well, I would agree with you because right now we got people not tithing at all.
Right.
So we're trying to grow towards that. Let's start.
good, yeah.
Let's start with what you actually have in your
The
take
bare
home.
minimum.
Yep. And
But what I do as a W-2 guy, I tithe when I get my tax returns as well, because then that's
Right.
essentially that's beyond because that's the money that's given back that hasn't been taken out in taxes.
Yeah.
So
then you're square.
So in theory, that would be also tithing on before tax.
Before tax, yep.
So that's how I handle that, because that's just a lot. For me, it's like I can wrap my head around that. It's tough for me to like sit down and calculate every month, like before all that stuff.
And then it gets really hard for self-employed business owners because, well, everything I give is tax deductible. So then I got to go back and do the backwards math on that. But Jesus did say, he says, give Caesar what belongs to Caesar.
Right, and give
God what belongs to God.
That's right.
I sometimes interpret that as pay your taxes first, and because he said that first, and then give the 10% to God. But again, I always tell people, I said, if we're worried about 10%, right? If that's not enough, if we think that's too much to give, whether it be before taxes or after taxes, we probably got a heart issue, because now we're like pinching pennies on what we're going to give to God.
Right.
So again, if we're having that debate, like some people, you'll hear that. Right. Well, in the New Testament, it just says give from your heart. And I said, well, if your heart says less than 10%, we got issues.
Right, because we see from the beginning of the Bible, they freely gave 10%.
Right.
So if you can't get to that, that's the standard. Well, then.
Yeah, we start there and we go from there.
Well, really what I'm seeing is the need for people to sit down with you one-on-one. You've really built yourself up here, not even knowing it.
Huh, yeah.
Because there's so many nuances, and I know that wasn't your intention at all, but I have a million more questions, and I realize we need to wrap it up.
But I feel like this is a great start. People can listen to this podcast and at least, start to have a plan or think about that. But we would recommend, Dickie, throw out your contact info so people, if they do want to sit down with you, how can they reach you?
Do that, and also, if you got some resources you like some podcasts, some money podcasts, or some books that helped you get started, you could share those too, if applicable.
Well, a good podcast is What Does the Bible Say About Money by Pastor Sam.
Yeah.
That is really good when you're trying to do that. In regards to... I
think it was 3-part or 2-part?
2.
It was 2 parts. Really good. In regards to content out there, really, this is just 10 years of me doing budgets with people and then a lifetime of doing it with myself.
Yeah.
But the Dave Ramsey always has good basic principles that you could work with. And I know Leaf... has done it, has gone through with people, but this is probably a common misconception too, is people don't want to see me because they think it costs money.
Right.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what does it cost to get a meeting with you?
Yep. So I usually say anybody at the church, come in for free.
Yeah.
Right. But anybody can come in, and I'm more than happy to go sit down with a budget with anybody.
Yeah.
And we've also got other members of the church that also work at Northwestern, right? So we've got Mike Bazile, we've got Brian Jones, we've got Paul Hodge. There are people there
powerhouse
that are willing to sit down and go through it. It doesn't cost anything. We want to give you a budget, want to help you, and now we will lead you to how to do it properly. And if you want to implement it by yourself, I'm more than happy to let you go implement it by yourself. If you want us to implement those savings and insurance and issues like that, we can.
Because you get paid, and I don't think it's you would care sharing this, but from the money you make through the investments.
Well, this is what I tell everybody. So we get paid 3 different ways. The first way is if we ever recommend an insurance product, right, and you take action on it, well, then there's a commission built inside of the insurance product.
Yeah.
There's nothing on top you have to pay me. If we ever recommend an investment product and there's a management fee for that, well, then there's a commission that gets paid to me out of that investment fee. And the third way is if you feel comfortable and you like the plans that I gave you, you feel comfortable introducing me to new people. So I always say we're highly incentivized to do good work for our clients, because if I put you in an unsuitable insurance product and it doesn't fit your needs, you don't like me, right? And you leave me, and I'm not your advisor anymore. If I charge you money to invest and I consistently lose you money in the market, or I underperform the market, well, then you're not going to recommend me, or you're going to leave me.
Yeah.
And then I said, if you don't feel comfortable that I didn't do a good job from customer service standpoint, you're not going to feel comfortable introducing me to new people.
Yeah.
And my business doesn't grow, and my wife leaves me. so I want to do a good job.
You got a lot of incentives to do a good job.
a lot of incentives. So, you can go to richardlyons.nm.com. That's my website.
Okay.
Or you can call me.
Put that in the show notes.
Yep.
I always say that. I never do. But
that's okay. That'd be cool. We did that in the show
Richard
notes.
Lyons.
.nm.com. I think.
We'll test it out.
Yeah, we're going to test it out. And then obviously, you can call my cell, or you can call Zach or Haley or anybody that works over at the front office or part of our team. and they'll schedule it up.
We're sorry, this site is under construction.
Try Richard dot Lyons.
This is a lot of dots in an email.
I know, it's confusing. When I type in, it's automatic, you know? We'll figure it out.
You're going to have to text me that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Look in the show notes, people. Josh, don't forget to put them in there.
All right, I'll try.
Right.
At least this, so that Dickie can get an email if you want.
And it's It's my favorite thing to do. I love talking about money and budgeting. So it's like, even if you don't want to come see me, if you just call me with a question, if I'm not in a meeting, I'll pick up and I'll talk.
Yeah. Cool, good. Man. Well, thanks so much for coming on and taking time out of your busy day.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad your call rescheduled.
I know. It was nice. Got 30 more minutes. What are we talking about?
That's right.
No, we're going to let the people go and put this stuff into action.
That's right.
Perfect.
And make a call to you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Dick.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for listening. Later.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Change Up podcast. This podcast is made possible by the Field Church in Mandeville, Louisiana. If you don't have a home church, please come check us out. We have service times at 8:45 and 10:45 on Sundays, and you can find more information at thefieldnola.com. If you found this podcast to be helpful, please share it with a friend or family member and rate and review on Apple Podcasts. This helps other people just like you find us.